so excited to introduce you to one of my now best friends. We didn't know each other before this. Nicole Jackson. Say hi.
Hello.
So Nicole is my Fyre Festy bestie. We met at Fyre Festival. So we finally get to have this conversation, talk about everything. The things that people didn't see that you saw maybe in the documentaries, but like we actually lived it. So totally different experience than what you saw on TV. So really exciting stuff. I'm so excited we finally get to do this. We've been wanting to do this for a while.
Years.
So literally years. Nicole lives in Florida. And so we'll kind of just reel it back to where we met. So I guess, and how we found out about Fyre Festival. Fyre Festival, for some of you, in case you don't know and you didn't quarantine and watch 100 different shows, was a music festival that went completely bust and got a lot of people. It bamboozled people like Nicole and me. And so we'll kind of take you through that whole journey, and it's nuts. So some PTSD that we both have, but I feel like we're recovering.
This will be kind of therapeutic.
I think so. Yes, this is
hammer it out.
All right. We're virtually holding hands. So she is in Florida and I'm in Texas, but when you were living in Florida too, right? At the time?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So this was in April of 2017.
Yes.
And I had seen kind of like the orange square, like everybody else. And I wanted to go to this music festival. And I knew, I was like, kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. I know you didn't know that about me. You know that about me now. But at the time, didn't really know that. And also too, just so y'all know, like the extent of Nicole's and my friendship now, we have done from that meeting at Fyre Festival, we have now, we've done cruises, Holy Ship, Friendship, Ultra, Labor Day weekend at the Gorge. You've done like trips here, Seismic.
Yep, Seismic.
Basically, we try. She's like my ride or die festival travel buddy. Like I know. We could survive Fyre Festival. We can survive anything. So she's those people that I trust wholeheartedly and soul sister for life. All right. Yeah. So now we'll get back into it. So Fyre Festival was a place, like I said, I heard about it. I didn't really have anybody that I knew at the time that I could round up to go. So I actually had a wedding before before weekend 1 and then weekend 2. So I knew, I was like, if I'm going to go to this, I'm just going to like try for weekend 1. And so people ask me like, how did you find out about this? I joined a Facebook group for weekend 1 of Fyre Festival, and I found Nicole's group. I literally just went in and I was looking. I was like, you know what? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I saw an ad that one of her friends had put in there that just said, looking for one girl for weekend 1. And this was like, and it was like 2 weeks old. Like it was super old. And I didn't even know if that was something that was still good. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to message this girl, message her. And she immediately responded. She's like, yes, we're still looking for one girl. And so I was like, well, let me take a look at the folks that you're going with, because it's literally 8 people. I think it's 8 people. And so I joined this WhatsApp group. So that was my first introduction to Nicole. She sent me all of her, like the whole group. I got to see like their Instagrams, Facebooks. We all became fast friends. And that's when I met you. So tell me like how you found out about Fyre Festival and how you got with this crazy group.
So I was in Florida, and a friend of mine, it was December of, was it
2016 at that time then.
Yeah. So December 2016, she's like, you have to look at this like Instagram account. And so she showed me, and it's the Instagram account with the orange squares. And I was like, okay, but what the hell is this? And so I don't know, you see the video with the models on the jet skis and blah, blah, blah. And said it was a music festival. I love music festivals. So I was like, I'm down. Sign me up. We got like a package for 8 people. So it was like supposed to be 2 lodges.
Lodges.
4
Comical
people
now.
in each lodge.
Okay.
And that included like the flight from Miami to the Bahamas. It included the lodging, food, and your tickets to the festival. So for 8 people, like split, it was under $900.
Under 900. So that's like a common question. I'm sure you've gotten that. Everyone probably thought like, oh, did you spend like $10,000 and to go to this? Like, no, like I spent what she spent, under $900 to go to this.
Yeah. And I thought that was such a good price.
Yeah.
Like, if you break it down with the thing I just said, like
right.
Everything included. And I've spent more than that going to like Ultra and
same
EDC. And yeah. So I thought it was a good deal. And so I said I'd do it. And we were able to find 7 people. So we found a couple other friends, and we found 2 friends of a friend, and then we needed 1 other person. So that's when my friend put an ad on Facebook looking for 1 other girl. And that is where you came in. Yeah. And by the way, may I just add that how freaking crazy are you for going to Fyre Festival by yourself? Like, I had no idea who this person was, but I was like, whoever would agree to go to a festival, like who would want to go to a festival by themselves and just join a group of 7 other people. I was like, this person's like my kind of person.
It's funny you say that. So when I was joining this, and I don't even know where that, I'm trying to think of like where I got, so I was going to do, what is that, like cruise week or yacht week. So I had like looked at doing yacht week, and it was interesting. And that's where I got the like idea from, is because I had like signed up for that, and then that didn't end up happening. But there was a girl in that group that was just like joined right in our group that didn't know anyone. And I was like, damn, like it takes a lot of balls to like join a random group. And I was like, you know what? Like, why not? So that's when I saw y'all's group. And I remember like going to the wedding, and my poor parents, like put them through a lot. And that was one of the things probably like my biggest regret that I do have. I don't normally have regrets, but that was a regret, just putting them through it, because I can't even imagine. I didn't tell a lot of people that I was doing this. I kept it to myself because I mean, at that time I thought I was going to show up and be like, oh, look, I'm with like Diplo, and like there's, Gigi Hadid and like the Biebers, and here I am. Like, I just thought like, cool, I'm going to have this like crazy experience to document and tell people about, but like to that level, and just be like, surprise, like here I am. Not the case, obviously. But yeah, so I thought like joining,
like you've definitely done crazier things.
True. So yeah, hanging out with random,
this unlucky time.
Totally. So I think that's where I was like, you know what? Like, exactly. I'm going to roll. Like, I'm like 10 for 10 at this point.
YOLO.
Solo YOLO. And end up, signing up with your group. And
What's
I remember
the worst that could happen.
Yeah. And so that, like she was saying, we had to, it came with the flight, which was on this quote unquote private jet. So the flights that were out there to get to the Bahamas, everyone had like your group had already like reserved their flights. And I was like, hey, like what flight do I reserve? And they're like, you just have to find whatever because all the flights were already like booked up. So there's only 2 flights left. And I mean, I'm booking like last minute. Like I'm booking.
They were going out every hour starting at like 5 or 6 a.m. Leaving Miami.
And guess who got the first flight out? Me. So in my head, I was like, I'm either flying out Thursday at 5 or 6 in the morning, or I'm flying out Friday at 10 p.m. And I was like, well, shit, I don't want to like miss out on the whole thing, So I'm like, I'll just get there before everybody else. I'll go do the treasure hunt. I'll go swim with some pigs. I'll go like, do some yoga on the beach. Yeah, like your group, it was so funny. Even like in the things that they were bringing, they're like, oh, I have to make sure I bring my yoga mat and like all these different. I was like, damn.
My juicer.
Your juicer. Yeah. I was with some like yogis. I was like, shit. And I didn't know that y'all like didn't know them. So I was, again, like trying to get in with the group, was like, okay, I'll be the first one out there. I'm going to message them, like give them the play-by-play of what's going on, and thinking like, you know, cool, I'll get in good. So when they finally get there, like I got them all set up. And that's like the mama bear. You know that about me now. Like I have that mama bear mentality anyways. Yeah. So that was like prime time for me to be like, cool, I'm going out to this thing. So then fast forward to the day of Fyre Festival, and like what time your flight was in the evening?
Yeah, mine was at like 4 or 5 p.m.
And y'all were driving in, right? Mm-hmm. So we were flying out of Miami. Since my flight was the first thing, they sent out this email and they were telling us to get there like 3 hours before to like get through customs. So basically that would make me get there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, which meant like, okay, I don't want to pay for a hotel room like all by myself. So I ended up getting like the red eye. So I knew, this is again in my head, I was like, oh, I'll just get there and I'll sleep on the beach. Like, cool, you know, in this villa that we're staying in, whatever. So get there, I get to the airport, and at this point, like everyone was still kind of questioning. Like people were like really, I'm not even like really active on Twitter, but people were like watching Twitter to be like trying to get some kind of glimpse. There hadn't been any like real first look at what Fyre Festival looked like. We literally, we went off of drawings. Like it sounds so silly now to like look back on, but like when we were looking at it, we're like, oh, well, this festival's never actually happened before. So of course they're just going to have like drawings of the accommodations.
Right.
But now I'm like, if I see drawings, I'm like, nope. No. See, we're both in like agreement on that.
Yeah. Well, even like first time festivals are like, I have a hard time with.
Same. So. I don't do it. See, that's so nice to like know you're the same. I'm the same way. Like people, I don't do it. And I tell people, I'm like, listen, I'm super hypersensitive to, and I tell them like, I've been to Fyre Festival. So any type of like, if you're a first time festival, like get one under your belt. And if I don't know you, then definitely get that under your belt and we'll talk after. I can't do it. I'm like super, just like you. I didn't know that you were like that too. Yeah, you won't do it. So
not worth it.
Not worth it. So then, you know, I take the red eye and I get there. And what was so funny, it's funny you mentioned that like what kind of person would like join this solo. So I show up to the airport, right? And they said that they were going to have like a booth set up in between like a Chili's. I just remember like the Chili's, like I love Chili's. Shout out Chili's and bottomless chips. But like you have, I remember like, again, like I'm like, oh, I'll go to the Chili's. But I was walking up to like, just like it was yesterday. And I was looking for this booth that they were supposed to have Fyre Festival and they were supposed to have like our wristbands. And there was nothing. Like all I saw was like a bunch of like random people. Like there was a group of guys there that was completely sunburned, like a bunch of Canadians. So that's another thing. There were people from all over the world that were coming to this festival. And so for me, I walk up and we're all like, are you going? And they're like, Fyre Festival? We're like, yeah. So immediately it was like this instant bond we all had. And then I found out that we were all like the one-offs. We were all the people that, and I was like, damn, these are my people, because these are the people that literally would go to a festival by themselves, that are just here for the experience, flying by this, which in hindsight, we probably all should not be friends, because who knows the kind of shit we would get into together. But that was like, that was like the group, you know, like the first group to go out there. And I remember there was this guy there who was from San Francisco, and I like saw him. I was like, hey, like, you know, we kind of talked and we kind of agreed, like, I'm gonna look out for you. Cause he's like, yeah, I totally came here by myself. I'm joining, there's a group of friends I have, but I don't really know that. I know one guy out of the whole group, and I just kind of joined last minute. And I was like, cool, you and I are gonna be like homies. Like we got each other's back. So we're waiting and still like nothing's, it's like now 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock comes and like the airport starts like waking up, and that's when we see people. We're like, oh, okay, great. Like people are filing in now, and we like check in, and this is, oh, I don't know if I even said this. So this was my first time ever flying like international. Like the first time I used a passport, first time I've ever been out of the country. This is my first experience. And that's why I was just so excited. I was like, cool, I get to like, you know, go to the Bahamas for my first time. And so I didn't really have a frame of reference to know like what was abnormal. Like going now, I've flown out since, but it's just funny that I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that.
Right.
This is how customs works.
Right. Well, plus the Miami airport is like a cluster. It's
it
the
really
most stressful
is.
airport I've ever been in. So it just, I don't know. It was just shady from
the get-go. So yeah. So that's where I'm like texting the group. And so we're like in this giant WhatsApp that, I mean, these people are super entertaining. You could have literally a podcast show just on these WhatsApp conversations in this group. So that's why I was even more excited to like meet all these people. And so we show up to, like I said, they start checking us in. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, cool. At least we know, but everything's a little bit delayed, but we're still thinking like, okay, I'm like, where's our wristbands? Like they're supposed to give us like our room and villa and lodge assignments when we're there. Still have no idea. So we get on, this was when I was like, oh shit. We get on the plane, and these are like the custom, like remember the Fyre Festival, like planes that have like the custom emblem on there. But these planes, y'all, were like from it looked like they're like from the 1970s. Jinky planes. I just remember them being like pretzels in the first class. Look, they have like pretzels in the seats, and then they had like Lay's potato chips, as that was like supposed to be some distinction of class between like first class and coach. You didn't even have, did you have any kind of snacks?
We had no chips.
You had no snacks.
We had no pretzels. We had no water.
Oh shit.
So my window on my aisle like came off.
Oh shit, that was you?
Like, yes, like the window.
I saw that Snapchat story.
Pulled the window frame off and was holding it in his hand. It made like Snapchat.
I saw that. I remember seeing that. That's how like jinkies, like I remember sitting in it, because it was like those really like cheap hotels where like where it like dips in, and that's, I remember like rolling on the girl and being like, I'm so sorry, like I'm really trying not to like sit on your thigh right now, but I'm like leaning in, and I had like the window seat. So we get on, I'm like, okay, this is not a private jet like they had said. And I'm looking, and I'm so excited, and I remember like looking out the window, and it's raining. And so this is now 7 a.m. We land 7 a.m. It's pouring down rain, right? And I remember like there was this girl there who I'm pretty sure she flew on the plane with us, but she was like just probably one of the most stunning girls I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, okay, she was obviously being like paid to be there as like one of their influencer supermodels. And she immediately like went through customs and like jumped in some like black limo SUV and like takes off. But like we're there, and I remember customs being like, what are you guys doing here? Like they had no idea. And I was like, whoa, like y'all don't know that we're here for a music festival? Like that's kind of weird, you know? And
yeah,
didn't understand that. And so I'm like texting the group, and like customs isn't, I'm literally giving this group like the play-by-play of like, how does customs not know that we're here for a music festival? Still don't have anything. They take our luggage. And this is when I kind of freaked out, and I was like, well shit, you have my luggage. Now I'm like, where is that going? And they're like, oh, we're going to bring it to your rooms and to your assignments. I'm like, but how are you going to take it? I felt like I had a lot of common sense. You had a lot of common sense too. And I feel like people weren't really connecting the dots there. And I was like, okay, how are you guys going to know where to take my stuff if I don't even know where I'm going to be? And so where were you, like, what was your thoughts? Like, I guess the morning of, like, when did things start to kind of feel suspicious for you?
So some of the details are kind of fuzzy at this moment, but I remember it coming out a little bit ahead of the festival that like not all of the housing, like accommodations would be there. So I remember it coming out that like there were going to be tents and that they had to move to a different island and they weren't able to get everything in time. So some of the accommodations were going to be tents. So I remember like the morning of coming to terms with the fact that we were most likely going to be in two like quality tents.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like I don't mind that, you know, we'll be drinking, we'll be partying, so it's only a place to sleep.
Right.
We'll be with friends. Like that's okay. So when I got to the airport, same thing. We like didn't know where to go. There were no signs. We were trying to look for other people who like looked like they could be going to Fyre Festival. And there was like one little line, and there was one guy that was working there, and one of the girls that I was with happened to know him from back home, and she was like, hey, we're here. And he's like, oh, okay, like here's your wristband. Like he looked like he felt bad for us.
Oh shit. So that's crazy. So with the
like,
wristbands,
looking back on it,
yeah, you're like, I get it now.
Like, oh, you guys have no idea what you're getting into.
Right. So at the time before you like when y'all were getting there, I was like having a fucking day. And so I guess we had loaded, so they give you like this opportunity to, that's another reason why I was like, I don't have a wristband. Y'all had wristbands, but like they asked us to like load our wristbands. How much did you put like a lot of money on I put like $500, but they were telling you like plan to spend like $500 a day on your wristband.
Yeah. I didn't put any money on my wristband because I didn't have any money at the time. So I was just like going there and I thought I was going to wing it. But also when they were sending those emails about loading the wristbands, like it seemed shady.
Right. We're like, why do you need all this? And I was like,
yeah,
all this
they were
money.
Like, plan to spend $500 a day. And I was like, there's no way in hell. So
no.
I had a feeling. So all these like red flags had been going up for a few weeks ahead of time.
We all had the red flags.
I was like, okay, like it's still going on. They're not canceling it. Like the artists are still on board. Everybody's still a go.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's kind of where like our love for music is obviously and that was probably the biggest reason why I wanted to go. I mean, this lineup was sick. It was like Kanye, Disclosure, Blink 182, like all these amazing artists.
Major Lazer.
Yeah, Migos, Major Lazer.
Yeah.
Those were like the big, I love Disclosure. So that was like a big draw for me. And then Kanye, you know, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, rub elbows with Kim, you know? So thinking all those things, I was like, cool. I got this badass music festival. It's supposed to be like the best experience of my life. I'm now like landing in the Bahamas and we get there and this airport is so small, y'all. Like it literally is like a house. It's a tiny little airport. So they literally just immediately put us on to these shuttles. And so the people that had their carry-on luggage, like they had, you know, and I have pictures of all this stuff. We're all like cramped in this little shuttle and we think we're going to Fyre Festival. Well, they end up dumping us on some like resort. And it's still raining, by the way. And so at this point, there's like two different types of people that are awake and like going at this particular group at 7 a.m. We have like the people like me that were exhausted, that hadn't slept, that were everybody like, I showed you my pictures where people were like literally sleeping on their tables. Like me and my little buddy were like literally sitting there and they were going to feed us breakfast. So like, oh, breakfast is on Ja Rule. Like y'all enjoy. So half of us are literally, everyone's like sleeping on the table. The other half are freaking doing shots, like getting crazy at like 7:30 in the morning at this resort. And so we're thinking, we even show up and we tried to check in. We thought this was like where we were staying. That's how like clueless we were. We had no idea. There was zero communication besides like, hey, you guys just stay here. There was just a place to park us until we had a place to go. Well, then the people that actually were staying at the resort were getting pissed off. Like, obviously, can you imagine just like these freaking crazy people like showing up to your resort where you probably spent a shit ton of money Exumas.
Well, also we were supposed to be on a private island.
Right.
What, like, where did this resort come from?
Exactly. That's where we were. And so I'm still like, where the F's my luggage? Because I had bought like brand new bikinis, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get all these like this badass photos and like just look like a freaking mermaid just glazing in the sun. But I had all this new stuff, and then so I was like really kind of worried too. I was like, where's my luggage? And so a couple hours go by, we eat breakfast. We like overloaded the kitchen, and they're like, all right, we're about to take y'all to go have a day party. Like, yay, day party. And so in my head too, I'm like, well, where the F's my luggage? And so like, everyone's kind of like wrapping up, and I see this girl. I walk outside, and I'm with my again, buddy system. I'm with my buddy, and I see this girl like pull up that had been on the plane on a golf cart, and she has her luggage. I'm like, hey, like, where did you get that? And she's like, oh, give this guy $20 who's like a resort employee. She's like, give him $20 and he will literally take you right into Fyre Festival, and you'll get to get your luggage. So I was like, oh, well, done. So like, give the guy $20. Me and this other guy like jump on there. He like went with me again. Buddy system is in full force, especially in this country. So that was like the first look. This is 9 a.m. And I wish like I had like posted this to Twitter or something, because I sent it to again, I'm still like undercover, like with my actual like real friends. It's the whole Instagram versus reality. Like, I'm not telling anyone, but I'm telling them, I'm like, y'all. And so that was the first look. That's the footage you saw. Like, that was my footage that was like in those documentaries. And I'm literally like on this golf cart, and that's when we see just like this sea of tents. And I'm like, what in the world? We see like mattresses like stacked on top of each other. Like, everything is soaking wet. And like, so finally, like the golf cart guy like takes us to, and it's a giant tractor trailer. And I see like, I literally have to like climb in like MacGyver style. And I'm like, and this girl's in there like by herself, and she looks at me like a deer in headlights, and she's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm here to get my luggage. Like, and so I like go and I find it, and she's like, can I see your ID? I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you think I'd really like sneak into a music festival to go steal someone else's luggage? Like, no, this is my luggage. I'm leaving. Bye. And that guy and I, so that was like the first look of everything. And we're freaking out, me and this guy. And that's where I have like my footage, and you see just like the dirt, and there's like no pillows. It's just mattresses. And it's just like, oh my God. And that's when I really start freaking out, because I'm like, okay, where are we going to sleep? Like, everything's soaking wet. Everything's like, there's no pillows. There's no towels. Like, this is fucked up. So we start I'm like filming the whole time. And that was like my little buddy guy was like, hey, make sure like you film everything. It was like brilliant. So I'm filming all of this, and all of a sudden I see Billy McFarland on one of those like, and I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was on one of those like buggy things, like some like snazzy buggy, and he like zooms up to me, and I'm like, oh shit. And in hindsight, I wish I would have been recording, but he's like, excuse me. He's like, how did y'all get in here? And I was like, he got us in here. I came to get my luggage. And I was like, how are you guys going to pull this off? And he's just like, I think I've told you this part like before, where it's like talking to a robot. He was like, he's like, oh, we're really sorry. We really appreciate your patience. And if you need anything, my name is Billy McFarland, and just let me know. And I'm like, what? Like, no, that didn't answer anything that I was asking. And he just like zooms up to like, he takes off, he like speeds off and gets to the very front, and that they like shut it down. So after that, like all the workers were like, nobody else is allowed inside. So we were like the last people to like get our luggage. And that was at 9 a.m. Right. So keep that in mind. So we get through that whole thing, and go through the shuttle now like takes us to that day party, this island, and we show up. It's now 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm having a day, y'all. Like 10 a.m. show up, and I'm sitting. I look on this little island. There's like a little clubhouse that does not have a bathroom that's working. Like already, like the bathroom was like, I went to the bathroom, and I was like, oh wow, there's no like running water. Like, that's disgusting. And they actually had like, I think I told you, they were like selling merch. There was like an actual like merch trailer that they were like selling merch. I'm like, how are you guys gonna be selling merch right now? And in hindsight too, I wish I would have bought a bunch of it. They were selling merch at this day party for a Fyre Festival.
They were still trying to make their money.
Still, yeah. I mean, it's
the last second.
I guess, yeah. Like, you can't knock the hustle, but it was still just like, come on, bro. Like, really? And so we had this, so they started cooking food, and all we had to drink was like margaritas, and that was like my first introduction to Casamigos. And I was like, that was my first, and I had no idea how expensive it actually was. I had no concept of Casamigos. It's the best tequila ever. But we were just drinking margaritas. That's all they had. So we're there, and, I had like changed into my bathing suit, but then the hours just started to kind of like trickle by. And I'm like, more people started coming. So like she was saying, like Nicole was saying, on every hour, more people were getting dumped like onto this day party island. So that's where we were like, okay, what's actually happening? And now we don't have any sunscreen. I actually like went back to my luggage around because I had like dumped it somewhere with a bunch of other people's luggage. I went back, my luggage had been ransacked. So people had stolen bathing suits, stolen like my shoes, stole like all kinds of stuff, that all the new bathing suits I had, people like ransacked it. And that's just like, okay, what the fuck? Like people now are like trying to figure shit out. Like they don't have their luggage. They don't have anything. Yeah. And I'm like messaging back and forth with them. They're stuck at the airport. Her group is. And I'm just sitting there at this day party like, okay. And we had that's the thing too. Like the food was kind of like revolving. Like I always ate. This girl, I don't skip meals, period. So I made sure that anytime there was food, I was like the first in line. And I was like getting my food, getting mine. Cause I didn't know where like my next meal was going to come from. So
yeah,
survival of like the foodies. So I made sure to eat.
Yeah. And now anytime we go to festivals, we do make sure we eat.
Yeah, we're not on that chicken finger diet. That's bullshit. We're on like real,
because we don't know where our next meal is coming from.
There's a lot. This is all making sense now. I'm like connecting all the dots of why we are the way we are now.
Yeah.
And so, we're eating, we did the whole like swim with, so then they like have these boats come, we get to like swim with the pigs. And that was like the first time I like posted. I was like, oh, look at me on this boat in the Bahamas, clear blue water. Here's the pigs. And that's when people were like, oh, are you at like Fyre Festival? Like, oh, that's so cool. Oh my God, I didn't know you were going, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yep, here I am. And I have like 2 phones at the time, but this is when all of a sudden, again, there was no like structure to it. They just kept dumping people onto this where the pigs are. The pigs were like pissed. They're like these oversized. They weren't like the cute little baby pigs. Didn't you say something about like...
They took you to the like second class island with like the loser pigs, like the ones that no one wanted, the castaways. The
castaway pigs. They're definitely castaways.
The ones that bit people.
They did.
Were ugly.
I got like bucked by one. One of them had these like little horns and like came and like got me. And I was like, peace out. I'm getting back on this boat. Get me back to like where I don't even know. I'm already I'm like have half of a buzz going, and I'm probably going to have like the worst headache of my life from all that sugar. And we do the whole like swim with the pigs, show up so we're back and we're just like waiting. And finally this guy who like does this massive speech about like, you guys are at the first ever like Fyre Festival and like, you'll be able to say that you went to this. And I'm like, in hindsight, he's like, remember Woodstock? Like, you guys are pioneers. And yeah, no. So
I wasn't asking to be a pioneer. Like I just wanted to listen to music.
I just want to listen to music. So at this point, I'm just like sunburned. I'm tired. I even think so. Like you see people, it looked like a scene out of like Saving Private Ryan on the beach, or you just see these bodies. Everyone's just like laying on the beach, like passed out. We have no towels, no bathing suits, no, like people were just stripped down. That's when it was like, okay, so finally the guy's like, we're about to get you guys to Rokers or something like that. I guess it was Rokers Island is where we were going. And so we get on.
Sounds like a prison.
Yeah, exactly. It does sound like a prison. So they get these buses, and I'm still like messaging with her group. They're still stuck at the, and I'm like, wow, like this is where we're at now. I don't know what made you guys still want to come, but at that point, you're still true.
Still
I'm literally giving them the play-by-play, her group. And they have these like school buses come and pick us up. And at this point, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I've now been up. I have not slept. I've maybe slept like an hour on the actual like beach because I don't have like chair. I have like half my luggage, half my clothes are missing. My shoes are missing. So this is where they like drop us off to the actual like Fyre Festival. And I'm thinking at this point, I've like sent a text to her group too, of like showing them like from the morning of like when I took all that footage. And I'm like, yo, this is what it actually looks like. And I remember like, you know, the girl that out of your group that was like emailing with them. And she was like, this is not what we were promised. Like, this is supposed to be something else. We expect an upgrade.
Yeah, they apologized and they said that they would give us like VIP wristbands when we got there. Still waiting for those VIP wristbands.
Still waiting for a lot of stuff. And so I remember that we get there, I get dropped off, and in my head, I'm like, okay, I know at least like, you know, nothing has been canceled yet. It's still going on. I'm still in like survival mode. And they drop us off and there's like two lines. There's like one of the house. There's one of like another like thing. And like Billy was standing on top of that. The guy was like, oh shit, that's the guy from the golf cart. And he's standing on the thing and he's like, anyone who has like a villa, like go with this guy. And I'm like, okay, like, I guess that's what I'm doing. So here I am, like, again, one of the few people like wheeling my luggage, like following this guy, and he drops us off. And I mean, can you imagine like being the guy who's like leading these people, knowing like you're not taking them to what they were promised? And so he takes us to like this completely random place, and it's all I see are tents. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not what we signed up for. And the guy's like, I'm sorry, like this is what we have right now. Like, just got to make it work until we can switch it. And all those people were like super trained in like customer service. I feel like they knew like how to talk to everyone and how to like be.
Maybe they were all sociopaths.
Yes. Would not have surprised me. And so we literally.
Or they were in survival mode too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And so that was when like I literally found these two tents, because at this point I know like, so Nicole is like on deck, like getting ready to come, and she's got two friends with her like in the group.
Yeah, we were like in the airplane on the way to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
There was no turning back.
She was the last flight out there, but as they're going out, I'm like, okay, at least I know they're coming. I have two tents of two of those domes, and I'm like literally taking pictures of like I remember I was like, here's like where I am, like send those to y'all. And then I proceed to like walk into these tents.
Those tents were like really
far back. Yeah,
that's where they didn't have any furniture.
They didn't have anything. Right? All they had were beds. And so I looked like a freaking like just rat, like going, and I would find, but this is when mass chaos was happening. So at this point, it literally looked like that scene out of Mean Girls where like their jungle, like everyone's just like scrambling, like looking for stuff. That's how it felt. Yeah. Like you could just hear people like screaming and yelling. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's just me by myself. And I go and I see like a bunch of cardboard boxes like filled with stuff. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go over here. So I go and I like open up the first one and I'm like, oh, like pillows. So I'm like grabbing all these pillows for us, and I'm like a squirrel, like running back to like the tents. And then you just see people like swarm, and then it's like whoosh, everyone's taking pillows and like fighting over pillows. And I'm like, like running back with these pillows to the tent, put them down. And I'm like, it's like supermarket sweep, you know, where I'm like, throw something in the cart and go. And so I like went back to the cardboard boxes, like open up another one, like, oh, sheets. Yay, like grabbing all these sheets. So I did that. I did like 6 trips, like trying to prepare this. And so I got pillows, I had towels and sheets. And I'm like, okay, at least we have somewhere to sleep. Shit hits the fan. And I remember like on my second trip back. So again, it's just me. I have like a backpack and my luggage, and I put like my luggage in one tent to kind of like reserve it. I have my backpack in the other. And I'm like sitting there, like checking my phone to see where you guys are at. And then I look and I'm like, and I hear like voices. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And I go in my other tent, and there's like a girl and two guys in there. And I'm like, excuse me, like this is my tent. And the girl's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. Like I've literally spent the last 45 minutes like running back and forth. And she's like, no, we're not leaving. And like, that was the moment where I have a pretty high tolerance for bullshit, but I just like snapped. It was like everything in me just like, and I was like, bitch, I have had a day. Like, you do not want to fuck with me right now. Like, get out of my tent. And she's like, no. And like gets in my face, and she has two guys with her. So I'm like, you know, what am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything. So I like go and I like run to concierge.
The concierge stand.
The concierge stand.
Yeah.
That looks like a fruit stand, but is actually the Fyre Festival concierge stand. I ran up there. I was like telling the dude, I was like, hey, there's this girl. She stole my tent. Can you help me? And he's like, yeah, I'll go with you. Goes with me, and he goes inside there, and he's like, excuse me, like this is her tent. And she's like, no, it's not. We're not leaving. So I'm like texting the group, and one of her friends was like this, like I knew this girl was going to like take charge, and I was like, she's going to like wreak havoc. And this girl's like, I got it. Like second we get there. So I go, and this is when like, it's now like 7, 8. Oh, it's almost like 9 o'clock. And I'm like, that was like the first time I truly like felt alone. And I had like that sobering moment of like, what the fuck did I get myself into? Like, I'm here in the Bahamas, but it's like all the adrenaline I pressed pause on everything, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm literally here at a music festival by myself. And that was like the first time I actually like got scared and was like, wow, like what did and I was about to like on the brink of like crying. Like that was literally, like I said, where I just had that moment, and I was like, oh my God. And because I just felt so helpless, you know, I felt like I was like, I don't know anyone here. I don't know even the people coming. I don't know. I have no support system here. I have a cell phone, and that's when, so like, and that literally like you guys like texted me and like snapped me out of it. You're like, we're here. And I was like, cool. So I remember like going to meet you. And then that's when like, so what was like when y'all landed, what was the vibe like when they took you straight to the festival, right?
Yeah. So when we got to the airport, it was like that really tiny 1-room airport. And we walked through to like the, front entrance, and everybody was just standing outside, and there were shuttles, and they were like, okay, everybody get in the shuttles. And me and my friends were like, okay, well, which one's going to the lodges? And they were like, no, they're all going. It's funny now, they're all going to the same place. We're like, no, well, we're going like, we have lodges, we're going to lodges. And they're like, no, trust me, they're all going to the same place. So we like, me and my friends, like we held back, and we were one of the like last shuttles to like, that was still at the airport, because we were just like at the airport waiting, I guess, to see if something else would happen. We were, I guess, in denial, but it started getting a little dark. And at that point we were like, okay, we need to we need to get where we're going, because we don't want to be like trying to figure stuff out in the dark. Yeah. So the one thing that I was like so thankful for was you texted us and you were like, whatever you do, do not let them take your luggage. Ooh. Because I had like a checked bag. And so me and my friends were like, they're loading everybody's luggage into a big like tractor trailer cargo.
Little
truck.
Did you know.
And yeah. And they were like, oh, you'll get them when you get there. And we were like, no, we're not letting our luggage out of our sight. So thank God, because by the time we got to the like the tents, the like site Fyre Festival, it was dark, and the cargo truck like was there in the dark with two people standing there at the doors, like handing luggage to people, and they were just like looking for their luggage with flashlights.
It was a shit
And
show.
I remember just getting there, and it was like such an out of body experience. I just like went into myself, and I think I was in shock.
Yeah.
Like,
you were
I
pretty
was in
like calm,
survival
cool, and
mode.
collected, but that like, again, we didn't really know each other. So I was like I was just like thankful that you guys were there. And it's funny you mentioned like the tractor trailer, because I remember like right before y'all got there, people were like screaming like, where's our luggage, and there was like people were like, and I get it, because that's how I was. And I pointed and I was like, hey, like I told this girl's like, y'all's luggage is in there. And they look back, and there's the tractor trailer, and it was, there's no one around it, and they just had like this metal chain around it. And I was like, that's where your luggage is. That's where my luggage was. I got it this morning. Like, if you can get into there, that's where your luggage is. And so that's when you just saw people swarm that. It was insane.
Yeah. So we got there, and my one friend immediately like grabbed an employee, and it was this like meek looking girl, and my friend just started like screaming at her, like,
it's good to have that one friend
here, and she had 2 tents, and people came and they stole our tent, and we need another tent, and blah blah blah. And the girl was like, just take whichever one you want. Like, I don't care, like, please. She like, yeah, she was going through it too. And so I think that was when we met up with you.
Yeah, you met up with me, and I was so grateful for your friend, because there was 2 of like, so there was like a total of 4 girls. So I was like, thank God I have like somebody here. And I remember like, because your friend she like went into the tent and like yelled at those people like, get out of the fucking tent. I'm like, damn, like, yeah, get them. And
but in hindsight,
yeah,
it didn't fucking matter.
There
were no assigned tents. It was like,
exactly, in hindsight, but
just grab a tent.
We were still, and so we
Everything
did. I remember
wet.
we found some like, we just had that one tent, and then that's when, as we were still figuring out, I think people were like trying to charge their phones, like this mass chaos. I would just start walking, and I see like 2 of my friends from Dallas, like 2 guys that I was friends with, and I'm like, oh my God. And we see each other, and they're like, hey, Clarissa. And I'm like, but they're like, cool. They're like not in panic mode, 0, like whatsoever. And I'm like, oh my God. And I like run, like give them a big hug. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, so, and they're like, oh, like, like, when'd you get here? And I was like 7 a.m. like first thing. And they're like, oh shit. And they're like, oh yeah, we got here like 5, but they're like still being so like nonchalant about it. And I'm like, you do know. And then that's when they're like, oh, Fyre Festival is canceled. Cause like the artists started to like message like, oh, we're not, due to like unforeseen circumstances, all like PC answers, but they like pulled out and like they were starting to pull, and then they just like canceled it. So we were like,
yeah. Well, that's why my flight was the last one out. And that's why 4 of our group actually never made it to the festival. They, because they were on one of the last flights out that night.
Damn.
And so their flight got canceled, and they stayed the night in Miami. So only 4 of our group of 8 made it to Fyre Festival.
Right. So it's fuzzy to me, because at this point I remember like seeing my friends, and I was like, now that everything's been announced that it's canceled, I was like, what's the plan? And then I think like your group was like gung-ho about leaving. Like y'all were like, we're getting back. We're going to go back to the airport and leave.
Well, one of the girls in my group was gung-ho about leaving. We had heard from like some people that there were no flights going out that night. Like they canceled Fyre Festival. The airport was closed for the night. Nobody was leaving. So I had come to terms with that. The other friend had come to terms with that, but the kind of leader of our group,
Yeah.
she was not taking that for an answer. So she actually faked a heart attack
I remember that.
to try to get EMS services to fly her back to Miami.
She was a nurse, y'all, so she knew the tricks of the trade. Like,
well,
kind of. I mean, I would have never. It's something I would have never thought. Like, but in hindsight, I was like, that's actually kind of brilliant. Like, you faked. Like, So I don't remember where y'all were, but I was talking to my friends because I think y'all had like decided to leave or like something was happening, and all of a sudden maybe we parted ways, and I was with my friends. I was like, I'm good. Like, y'all can leave, whatever. Like, and I remember talking to my friends from Dallas, and they were like, Clarissa, like, don't leave. Like, just stay here, hang out. We'll figure it out. There's no flights going out tonight. Like, we'll figure that out. Like, we'll have a good time, but like, don't leave. Just stay here. And I was like, you know what? He's right. And so I see either y'all, like, I remember just this white van and y'all were in there. And we're laughing because the door opens and I see like the leader, the one that's faking the heart attack is like, she's like committed. She's like full on. And I'm like, I know. And I knew she was faking it, but I was just so impressed with her acting skills of like faking this heart attack. And that was like the urgency too of like, and so like she's faking it. She's committed. She's leaving. And you and your other friend, I was like, hey, Nicole, like,
we were literally talking to each other through the window of the van.
I was like knocking on the window.
As the van's driving down the road on its way back to the airport. You knock on the window like, hey, my friends and I, we're going to stay. They have a really sweet tent.
Oh, yeah.
They have their stereo sound system set up. They have bottle service.
Classic Dallas. So, yeah, my friends. So, yeah. And so I convinced them. So I had gone to like get my friends because I was like, oh, I have my luggage, and I go to their tent. This was like the IKEA tent of someone's dreams. Like, you walk in, they had like lights. They had literally made their like makeshift bottle service. And I'll post these pictures like with this when we drop this. It's so funny. But they literally had like, you know, like the nuts and things that they had, like Pringles from the airport. Like, they turned it into like it was like a legit setup. And I was so impressed. They were like so calm. I was like, well, yeah, I'd be calm too if I had this setup. You know, I wouldn't be worried and stressed. And so when y'all were like, hey, let's do it. And at that point, my friend and I were like, I was like, you know what? Like, let's make the best of this. And him and I remember we went up to the bar because we were like, we're just going to like try to buy some alcohol because they were buying alcohol. And we literally like gave the girl like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 bucks each. And she just like handed us like 2 bottles each of like Casamigos. And that's like all that. Casamigos was the official tequila of that festival. And so we literally have these bottles.
They spent all their budget on Casamigos.
Their breakout budget. I mean, damn. Well played, Fyre Festival. So I remember we get like these bottles, we come back, and then y'all get off the van.
Yeah, it was literally like a split decision. Like,
best decision you ever made.
In slow motion. We're like, do we stay on? Do we get off? Do we stay on? Do we get off? And the van's leaving. And one of my friends and I jumped off the van joined you.
Thank God.
And the heart attack friend went to the airport.
Went off committed to the heart attack.
And ended up spending the night in the airport.
Yeah. So that's what was crazy. So I remember she like sent a group to that, like a picture of the WhatsApp of her EKG. I was like, damn. Homegirl like really got an EKG and is now stuck at the airport.
Good news, no heart attack.
Good news. She survived. Yeah. So she's stuck in the airport. And I remember but at that point I was like still in our mode. I was like, you know what? Like, cool. Let me get to know this beautiful redhead, Nicole, and hang out with her, hang out with my friends. And so we're there and we're just, I mean, what else are we going to do? We're going to drink. So we're there. They have like their boombox playing. And this is, again, the part that people don't see, that like what really happened at night. And so I get the brilliant idea that, and like, why not? It's like I don't even know. I have no concept of time. I can't even give you timestamps on any of this because at this point, like, what is time? You know? So Fyre Festival's canceled. I remember we went before all this shit happened. We were like we walked up to the clubhouse and they were like, oh, you know, it's canceled. Like, write down your names and your phone numbers and we're going to text you guys when your flights are ready for tomorrow. So that was like, for us, that was like, okay, cool. We're putting this to bed for tonight. We'll conquer this tomorrow morning. Nicole and I like wrote our names down. So we go and we're sitting there in the group and we've already had, you know, a couple tequilas in. I'm no stranger to how much I love tequila. And I'm like, hey, why don't we go skinny dipping? So
nothing else to do.
Why not? What else are we going to do? So this is what's crazy. So, you know, we walk out to the beach and there's already like 50 people skinny dipping. Like, you look out, it's just this like sea of naked people like already in the water. Because remember, like, nobody has their luggage. Nobody has their swimsuits. We're all like-minded, crazy ass people that like to party. And we're like, all right, I thought I was like brilliant. Like, oh, hey, like, let's go skinny dipping. There's already like literally 50 people.
Yeah. That was my first skinny dipping experience. And then people ran out of the clubhouse that like worked for Fyre Festival. They were like, no, get out of the water.
We had that big spotlight. Yeah, there was like this giant ass spotlight. And we're like, yeah.
And I had like scraped my knee getting into the water and it was bleeding. And I was
God.
oh my God, I'm gonna die at Fyre Festival. I'm going to get attacked by a shark at Fyre Festival. That's how I died.
And that's not the other, like 100 other ways that things could have happened.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I forgot
But it didn't. It was fine.
I forgot about them like running out and being like, oh, there's like sharks. And it was all the people that were like working the festival were locals too. So we were just like, I remember, so we all like skinny dipped, you know, I remember like one of my friends like hit it off with your friend. And I'm like, damn, people are making like literally love connections out here. Like,
they didn't know, you know, if they were going to see another day. They didn't know.
That's true. You know,
if it was their last chance.
What was so funny too. So I ended up like randomly passing one of my buddies or like remember my original like buddy from San Francisco. And he was like a super young dude. And I remember seeing him like with some girl and I was like, oh shit, like get it. And he's like, yeah, we met on Tinder. Like people are like swiping on Tinder. I mean, I get it. Like that's what else are you going to do? Like when you're there and he found this girl and I was like, damn, like get it. Good for you. Good for you. So we're coming back from skinny dipping and I think like your friend and then my friend like went on some like romantic walk. So we literally have like, we're still trying to like figure out this sleeping situation. And we had the two beds and we just like pushed them together. We didn't know there's 5 of us. Remember that. And there's
soaking wet mattresses.
Soaking wet mattresses. So we like pushed these mattresses. I slept like a baby at this point. So at that point we were still going and people actually like came and like shushed us and like told us like, hey, can y'all keep it down? I'm like, wow, I'm literally getting shushed at at Fyre Festival in like complete chaos. But okay, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what time it was. If it was midnight.
No clue.
Yeah,
we're on like straight up island time, like. But what was so funny is that there was like a group of, I remember seeing like this group of New Yorkers. 'Cause remember they had like the stage that was open and they had at different points, they had like a DJ playing. Like they were still trying to like keep the peace with everyone. They had like, do you remember those island performers that were in like full on like Bahama outfits?
Yes. So there was like the main stage that was not too far away from where our tent was. And it still had like random EDM playing, I think all night long and like lasers and stuff. And then it was still pretty early on the night when it was when we were like chaotic.
Yeah, we were trying to get like our flights out the next day. We were like writing down.
Yeah, everybody was still standing around that like one main blue clubhouse.
Yeah.
And I was just in shock, kind of internally panicking. And you just see this like Jamaican or Bahamian marching band walk right by, like music blaring. They were in full costumes. I was just like,
oh my God,
this is not the right time.
It reminded me of like the Titanic. I think we've made this joke before about the Titanic, the people playing the violin, like as the Titanic's going down. That's what that reminded me of. I was like, wow. And I have a video of that too, like of when they're just playing and it's just this absolute like, wow, this is happening. Like they're really, and I just remember that DJ playing and there was like a group that I later met those guys. Like I saw one of them. He's like, oh yeah, we were in that group. We like all took our acid and we like, people were just trying to, we're all in survival mode. We don't know what's going to happen. People are just making the best of it at this point, you know? And so Nicole and I, like after we like shove our bed together, I remember like popping a melatonin so I could go to sleep. I got my eye mask and I slept like a rock because I hadn't slept. I'm now going on like a full 24 hours of like no sleep. And I remember being on like the end. You were stuck in so we went like girl, boy, girl, boy. The five of us like smushed together like sardines on this bed.
Yeah. So I was the lucky person that got to sleep in the crack in the middle. Well, I say sleep. I didn't sleep.
You didn't sleep at all?
No, I have back problems and I was.
You're like the worst person to sleep in the crack.
I was made to lay in the crack of two soaking wet mattresses with
two guys,
two people on either side of me. Not happening.
Yeah, I slept. I could sleep anywhere, like anywhere, and I was very fortunate to just like pass. I immediately passed out. I think I was like the last one to like get out of bed. I mean, I had like earplugs in. Like I'm a professional like sleeper. Yeah, I had my earplugs in.
You are, and I have learned that about you.
That's it. And so we wake up the next morning, and it's like, all right, new day. Like we had a good night. And
they're gonna call us. They're gonna let us know when our
like checking our phones.
Yep.
We still don't have anything. We go. I think it was you and me, because at that point, like since your friend had to like hit it off with my friend, it was like, okay, Nicole and I just kind of, but immediately like connected. I was like, we were talking about music, we were talking about life. I was like, damn, like this girl is really freaking cool. You know, I really like her. And I didn't really talk to
recommending artists to each other.
Yeah. Like, had you seen this? I was like, oh damn, like she's seen this.
Yeah.
I didn't really talk to the other girl a lot. I can't even like recall one conversation with her. I just remember talking to you the whole time. And just like, after that, I was like stuck on you. Like we were together. And I think you and I like walked to the clubhouse to go like find out and check in. And they're like, because we had written our names in like this notebook, and we show up and they're like, we're like, oh, hey, we're just checking in to see, like, we wrote our names down, like, remember us? And they're like, oh yeah, we lost that notebook. We're like, all right, cool. They're like, but you can write your name down again. And we're like, at this point, that's when I'm like, shit, you know? And I remember that was the moment too. In the morning, I woke up and I started having like messages from my friends, and they were like, hey, are you okay? Like, this is all over the news. And I'm like, oh no. And immediately the first thought was like, my parents are going to turn the news on and like find out that I went to this music festival all by myself, and now it's like a dumpster fire. Literally.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I remember texting my mom and my dad and being like, hey, and it's like 9:00. Because at that point we're like all still, you know, it's 9 a.m. I like text my mom and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm okay. If you see the news by any chance, like this music festival I'm at got canceled, but I'm okay. I will keep you posted. And my mom was like very eloquently like, okay, thanks for letting us know. And that's when all the memes and like all the stuff, like there's just such this bad label of like the people that went to this music festival. Whereas like Nicole and I were true like music lovers, but they had, there were all these random influencers and people that claimed to like really be part of that experience. And it was just, I don't know, that sucked. That really, really sucked. So
yeah, we were still trying to figure out how and when we were going to get off the island, and people were already like talking shit about the spoiled rich kids who like, you know, fell for it, haha,
which
like
was like out
jokes
of
on them.
totally, and out of like pure, I feel like everybody would have gone to that music festival had they had the means to do it. And that's where I was like, we didn't even like, that's where everyone thinks like you paid $10,000, you paid this. I'm like, no, we paid $800. I had the money at the time to do that. And I wanted to go to a music festival, and like, it sounded like the best music festival experience ever. And in hindsight, it maybe could have been. And you know, what's great is like, Nicole and I have traveled and done a lot of cool stuff since, which it will have its own podcast in itself of our festival stories. But in this particular case, you know, we didn't know when we were getting back. We were there on, you know, the island. So we like and the whole thing about the food, like, let's talk about that for a second, because I feel like there was that is like one of the biggest shams too, is like, oh, the cheese sandwich. Everyone's like, oh, did you have the cheese sandwich? Did you have the cheese sandwich? I'm like, no, I ate like a freaking queen the whole time. Like, I had Jamaican jerk chicken at the day party. I had this like resort breakfast. And I told you, girl does not skip meals. And so we were at that night when we actually made it to Fyre Festival. I had some like, I remember eating like a shrimp spinach salad with like vinaigrette, and I mean, did you eat that night, or it was like some?
Yeah, it was delicious.
See,
because
exactly.
I hadn't eaten all day, but also it was really good.
The food was really good. That girl like threw down
teriyaki and rice and pineapple. Yep. Like very like island
food.
Cuisine.
She threw down, and even like the morning up, we had a full breakfast spread everywhere. And so we're sitting at breakfast, and I know this is the part that kind of sucks to have to like tell you, because at this point too, keep in mind, I'd only known Nicole. I would never do this to you now. I want to preface this by saying that because I love you so much. But at the time, I didn't know Nicole very well, and I knew my Dallas friends really well. Well, my Dallas friends were basically like trying to ditch the other girl, not you. It's nothing personal towards you. They just were like, hey, we have flights. There's only one seat left to get out of the Bahamas. Like, you know, we booked it. You can book it now. And I was like, fuck, I feel really guilty about doing this, but I also like need to look out for myself. I don't know how else I'm going to get off this island. And I know I have my two friends here that I know. So I like bought this ticket through Bahama Air, which there was only two not even terminals, two, I don't know, desks at this house, this airport house. And one of them was Bahama Air and the other one was for Fyre Festival. So they're like, we're leaving at 3:00. Like, and I just left it to the guys. I was like, yes, please, like figure this out for me. Like I knew that they were going to get off somehow because they were going to get there, and I trusted them. And so we didn't tell. I felt so bad and like guilty about like not telling you, but also it was like, there's only two seats. There's only one seat left on this flight, and like I need to get it. So I booked that. And that's when we went, and like we had like a day party, like, well, not really day party. We were just like laying out, you know? And then we didn't really have any way. This is when stuff too, like we weren't getting any texts. We weren't getting any kind of notifications about anything. And I don't even know how, like, I think we'll see what is that the guys knew like, oh, we need to leave now. And so the guys like figured out how to like basically like hijack a shuttle for us. And so y'all were like, oh, hey, let's just get to the airport. Now it's time, like, we'll figure it out once we get there. And so I remember the airport just being like a freaking shit show.
Yeah.
And that's when I think we told y'all like, hey, like we ended up finding flights out, you know, and I think maybe y'all had looked, or y'all were like, hey, we're just going to like, we're here, like, we'll just ride it out kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there were people that had been there like since the night before, which was nuts. So that's how like slow this flight charter thing was happening. And so that's when we were all there together. There's just like broken tequila bottles everywhere. People are drunk. Like there's nothing else for you to do, but we're at least at that point, I'm like, at least I'm off that freaking place. And I see some like sign of hope now at this point. And so my two friends and I, like, our flight comes, and because at this point it's still very surreal. I remember being like, is this really going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Like, are we going to get on this flight? Are we not going to get on this flight? And we check in, and then luckily, like, y'all, right, were like on a flight like right after us out.
Yeah, I think we got out around like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. But we definitely like hung around the airport for a few hours.
Yeah.
Just kind of waiting. Like at that point I was just done. I was like
no sleep.
Out.
You had no sleep.
Yeah, no sleep. I was running on empty. I was stressed to the max. Like I was a little bit hungover. There were people acting belligerent, and I was like, I can't even deal with this.
Like,
the party's over.
Party's over at this point, but people were still like you. It was just one of those things where people's temperaments were all over the place. You saw people that were just tired, that hadn't slept. Like, everybody was kind of over the party at that point, and people just wanted to get home. Like, if you were at the airport, you were ready to get home.
Yeah. Don't think we had any like water in 24 hours.
No, they were out of water too. Like at that little, remember we went to like a restaurant across the street, like waiting.
Restroom.
There's nothing. So
we were at the airport in our bikinis.
Yeah.
Because we had literally been just laying on the beach when we got the call to go to the airport.
Yeah. I had the video of you and me, like when we go out there. And so I remember we get to, our flight. I like tell you guys, I was like, all right, it's been real. Peace. Really nice to meet you. Like, you and I exchanged numbers. I don't even have another girl's number. And like, you and I exchanged contact info. And I was like, hey, like, and y'all were like, hit me up when I was like, I'll let you know when I get to Miami. And so those two guys had booked us rooms in like at Fontainebleau or something. And they had already had plans. Like, these guys too were like studs. They knew like what they were doing. And they show up and I was like, yeah, like, let me know. But in my head, I was like, I'm staying in. But they like literally went out to like live with like Brazilian supermodels, like knew what they were doing. So they're literally, and they texted me like 10 minutes before, like, hey, we're leaving now if you want to come. I'm like, oh, really? And I'm like literally in my bikini, I was like, cool, bye. Thanks for the invite. And I see pictures of them later, like with these supermodels. But I just remember like being so grateful to just like lay in a bed, be somewhere, and I booked my flight out. I was gone. I was like, I'm leaving first flight out to Austin tomorrow. And y'all like your whole group was still there. And there was I had exchanged messages with some of the people there that were like, hey, we're all going to be partying tomorrow at a day party. People were still like in party mode. And at this point, that's where I was like, I'm here by myself. I have no desire to like go be with more random people. I've had the craziest 48 hours literally of my life, and I need to get home. I'm ready. Like, it's been real, but it hasn't been real fun. Ready to go. And I bounced and I got back to Austin. And then that's when like you guys landed like shortly after, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we landed in Miami, met up with our friends who had stayed the night in Miami. And I took the best shower of my life back at their hotel.
What, you mean that little trailer didn't do it for you after the skinny dipping?
No. I think I like stood in there for 45 minutes. I think I shampooed my hair like 3 times. Oh, it was so good.
The saltwater hair. So
yeah, it was so good.
And then you stayed there.
We ended up going out that night.
Did you really?
We had fun.
Damn.
We had to
You made the best of it.
Made the best of it.
Yeah, I did not. I definitely did not. I was like, peace out, bitches. I'm out.
But you had been through a different experience than we had.
And that's when I was so embarrassed. I still didn't want to talk about it. I still didn't want to see anyone. And like news outlets were like reaching out to me. And I was like, no, I like want no association with this festival. I don't want anyone knowing that I was here. This is embarrassing. And I remember like landing back in Austin. And I'm trying to think of like you and I, that's when like shit just really hit the fan with everything with Fyre Festival and like all the just the fallout from it, and like the negative connotation that people had towards people that had gone, and like you said, the rich spoiled kids that had like gone to Fyre Festival. And I'm like, if they really knew the whole, like what we just said, that entire story of like people, and I'm sure you've gotten this too, people always ask me like, was it as bad as what they showed in the documentaries? And I'm like, it was worse. You didn't see the insider's perspective of it. You saw like a very produced point of view, and not like what you and I experienced. And
it was scary.
Yeah.
Not to sound like a spoiled brat, but
it definitely was.
Scary.
But I remember when, because I told you this and it never aired, but I had like filmed with MTV and I thought I was just going to like tell the story. But then of course, like people do, they know how to like get inside your psyche. And I had filmed with them for like 8 hours, and it was originally supposed to be like a three person thing. And then the other 2 people dropped out. And then I was supposed to be like the resident concert expert, like festival expert. And when I remember them interviewing me, but that was one of the things that the girl, it was like a very sobering moment for her to be like, what, like, did you feel safe? And I was like, what do you mean? I hadn't even fathomed. I hadn't even thought about like you and me as females. And she was like, well, you're a female. Like, were there locks on the doors? And I was like, no. She's like, were there security there? I was like, no. She's like, so anything could have happened to you. And I'm like, yeah, oh my God. And like just like visibly like broke on camera when she was like filming, and all the different, they just asked me those questions, but those were the most sobering moments. And then same thing like with my family, like what I do even now, and Nicole knows this, but like anytime I go out of town or I go to a place that wherever I go, my parents have the phone numbers and the full names of wherever I'm going. And I don't even ask questions. I don't care. I'm going to be like, you know, God knows how old, and still texting my parents like the names and phone numbers of the people that I'm with. Because I never want another experience like that to happen to them, where they're like, where are you? What are you doing? Like, no. So what like takeaways did you have from like that whole experience that you had?
Just trust. I feel like it takes a lot for me to trust things and people now. I like even friends, like even that group of friends, I have a whole different outlook on what's important to me in life now. I don't like sweat the small stuff as much anymore, because I remember being so just uneasy and scared in those days. And even talking about this story still like makes me uncomfortable. Like this was still a lot just talking about it, because I've never been that like alone.
Yeah. And essentially like you and I mean, to be perfectly honest too, I feel like if I knew that I would have to go through something like that again to like have a friend like you, I would do it. And I know that sounds pretty cheesy, but like you have just been, I mean, if that was how the stars had to align for us to meet, I know there's obviously, this isn't the ideal situation, but like you and I have connected on like such a deeper level now. And I feel like I'm able to just completely 100% be myself, which is why you're going to see this face multiple times. If you've been following me, you've seen her already, but like I didn't have ATX Concert Queen when we met, and it just kind of built up as a brand afterwards. But like, you have seen me in all different sizes, shapes, states of whatever. And it's like, we are 100% completely authentic and real with each other. And I think that goes to say like with festival friends, like it's deeper than just like a surface level friendship. And so I'm grateful for you and to have you, because I do feel like that is something that's what people kind of search their whole lives for, to have somebody like that. And like, while we are in these different situations and we see different things. Like that's one thing I always know is like she's got my back and I've got her back.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Like, I'm always so down to go to a festival or to a show or on an adventure with you because I know, like, no matter what we might get into, like, I'm safe with you. Like, we'll get through it together. You have my back, I have your back. And it, like, I don't know, that bond doesn't come around very often.
No, it's a different kind of bond. It's like it's one of those, and people that have these types of friendships, you get it, like you can't really define it or quantify it. It just is. It's like this love. And had I not joined some random like Facebook group to try to find, like, it's just crazy to think of like all the adventures that we've had since, and like just trusting the friendship and where we've gone with it. So
yeah, it definitely like took going through hell to like finding you, but it was worth it.
Same. Well, I love you. Thank you so much for being on and telling the story finally with me. I'm so glad we got to do this. And
yes,
I actually feel like lighter.
It was a little therapeutic.
A little therapeutic. So y'all will be seeing Nicole more. We have been on so many adventures together and excited to kind of relive some of those.
This is just the beginning.
This is literally the beginning. So you'll see her again. This was really fun. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Love you.
Till next time. Love you.
Till next time. Bye-bye.